Welcome to Recollections May Vary, a royal recap. I'm Kinsey Schofield with the Maureen Callahan. And on behalf of Los Angeles, California, I'd like to apologize for Meghan Markle. Maureen, you wrote the most incredible piece called Every American I Know is Saying the Same Thing After Disaster Tourist. Meghan delayed her Netflix show to focus on the LA fires. What was your initial instinct when you saw those videos and images coming out of LA of the Duke and Duchess of Misinformation making their way almost 200 miles down to LA? Did it feel like a photo op to you instinctually?
Well, 100%. I mean, it kind of surprised me a little bit, Kinsey, because and I don't believe this was really her decision. I believe this was Netflix's decision, and they allowed her to say it was hers, much as when someone high profile has been fired from a job and they're allowed to say they are leaving to spend more time with their family. So
Mm-hmm.
I thought, though, that wow, like for once she's listening to people and she's making the right call. Like, put a pin in this show while she's, performing in a sort of very Marie Antoinette, let them eat cake way from a multi-million dollar mansion in Montecito that's not even hers, because God forbid she should film in her own house. Um, and I thought, okay, maybe she's going to take, maybe the apocalypse that is happening in Los Angeles right now will be enough for her to take a moment and say, whoa, not only is this not about me, but I should just go hide away for a little while this city burns to the ground and then begins the painful work of recovering. But no, she couldn't do it. She couldn't do it. She couldn't. I swear to God, Kinsey, I don't know what you thought, but when I heard the news that she was pausing the debut of this show, I thought, she must be thinking, I can't believe this is happening to me. Not to
Oh,
Los Angeles, not to California, not to America, but to me.
you wrote, you kind of broke down her statement, and I want to read I want to read you parts of her statement, and I'm going to mention your comments because they are my favorite. I mentioned them last night on TV too. I was like, my friend Maureen Callahan said,
Oh, thank you.
but I also read you Beyonce's statement that she released today, and I'd like your reaction to Meghan versus Beyonce, because apparently Beyonce had something dropping today, and she chose to hold back on it, but I thought the tones were very different. So Meghan says, I'm thankful to my partners at Netflix. And you astutely point out, those are your bosses, Meghan, not your peers, for supporting me. And you say, me, in delaying the launch as we focus on the needs of those impacted by the wildfires in my home state of California. You said it was vintage Meghan, verbose, vague, meaningless, and thoroughly unnecessary. Now, if you look at the release Beyonce put out today, it says the January 14th announcement will be postponed to a later date due to the devastation caused by the ongoing wildfires around areas of Los Angeles. I continue to pray for healing and rebuilding for the families suffering from trauma and loss. We are so blessed to have brave first responders who continue to work tirelessly to protect the Los Angeles community, to join our, and we encourage people to join our efforts in supporting those impacted. Please visit, and then she gives a website. Maureen, those are two completely different tones. One is like, I want to say thank God for the people that are doing the hard work. And Meghan's is like, I'm doing something tough by postponing my show. Is that what you felt like when you heard those?
No kidding. No kidding. Just the day before we had published, I ran a column, and this sort of goes to a larger problem right now with celebrity culture in general. And we're seeing why Americans increasingly have zero use for these people. Mandy Moore went on Instagram and was pushing a GoFundMe for donations for her brother-in-law. Mandy Moore made reportedly collectively 23 million just from This Is Us alone, and she's telling people to donate so that her brother-in-law can maybe recoup $60,000. And she ends this missive with, oh, by the way, if you don't like it, F off. F
Yeah.
off. She's asking hardworking regular Americans for their own money that they can't afford to give, And then she's telling people who find this offensive to F off. And I just think that people have they have had it with this stuff. And, Beyonce, yes, to her credit, did she issue a statement that sort of meets the moment and recognizes that people are suffering and first responders are putting themselves in harm's way? Yes, but that's a low bar. I'm not going to give
Yeah.
Beyonce a gold star for that either.
Yeah, no, I mean, I appreciated the fact that hers felt like it was shining the light on somebody else, and Meghan's was still like, in my home state of California, we don't care. Nobody cares. Like, I think that's the biggest takeaway from your article for me. It was like, nobody cares. Nobody was sitting around going, what's next for Meghan Markle's show, as we were watching the entire state burn down. We were thinking, what's Gavin Newsom been up to, or how's Karen Bass waking up today? Like, we weren't thinking like, what is the status of Meghan Markle's show? And I don't know if you've seen it online, but there have been some members of Meghan's fan club on Twitter saying that they were glad for the fires because this was Meghan's moment to shine. Like, I'm like, do you
Wait,
realize
explain
that
that to me. I don't understand it.
Oh, I'm going to read you the exact tweet, but I guess they think that Meghan is getting some positive press right now. So I guess that's their justification so the exact post it's from Nosy 2015, 4 exclamation points. I'm happy for Meghan that the wildfires has sadly happened. For me, I believe it will work in Meghan's favor moving forward. Smiley face emoji.
I don't know. Is that person part of Meghan Markle's paid team? It makes no sense. It's a sick, disgusting, evil thought. Nothing can help Meghan. Nothing can help Meghan Markle. And it makes me wonder if Netflix actually took this moment after they didn't disable the comments on their own site, right? Like, they are about 140,000 negative comments to maybe 60,000, 40,000 positive comments. Like, they know this is a turkey. They've got to unload it. This is coming on the heels of Polo, which was an epic belly flop. I think they can't wait to divest themselves of these two, especially given that tone deaf statement Meghan put out, as if she's running Netflix. I think Ted Sarandos would beg to differ.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I couldn't believe she used the word partners. It's like, you're not on their level, Meghan. You were a deal or no deal girl. You were cast on Suits. They were writing you out of Suits when you met Prince Harry. Where were you going to go? There were no offers on the table. Stop pretending like you're in their league. You married up. Thank God. Thank God that you married up. Do you feel like I don't know how it is on the East Coast, but on the East Coast, where's Justine Bateman? Justine Bateman's located here. She, I think, represents the tone here, which is disaster tourists. Like, again, having to get in a car and travel nearly 200 miles to do this tour. Meghan's friends and whatever can say she's not a tourist, she's from California, but that's quite the trek and waste of government resources. For Harry and Meghan to come down. What's the tone on the East Coast? How did you react? How is the media reacting over there? Is it fawning over Harry and Meghan showing up someplace and I don't know, just their presence?
No, actually, here's Meghan. I'll give Meghan Markle one accomplishment. She has united Americans of every stripe in complete and utter loathing and disgust at her and her husband's actions, their insertions of themselves needlessly into this whole scale human carnage and tragedy. What you just said is absolutely right. Imagine there are parts of Los Angeles that even residents can't get into to see if their homes are still standing. Yet these two think that roads should be blocked off for them so they can travel south to LA with a camera crew so they can get footage of Meghan and Harry walking around with their concerned faces on. The reports I've read have said they stayed for 17 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, I I will say I've heard it's a mix between 17 or 45 minutes, but even so, still what a waste of resources for such a short period of time. This is a guy that's suing his own country because he wants additional security, but he's going to pack up his entourage and exhaust an already exhausted situation with their presence. Uh, and you're right, it's not just to, first of all, how many, over 60 people have been arrested for looting. So we know that these are really kind of chaotic areas where people can't get into to see if their possessions still exist. They've got these looters dressing as firemen and policemen combing through these homes, and people can't get back to see if their animals are alive. Like, can you imagine not knowing if your animal was okay and then saying you can't go through this blockade? Like, I would absolutely lose it. And there are Harry and Meghan walking hand in hand. That to me, and some of the people that contacted me that day, was one of the most vulgar elements, is that they're like walking hand in hand through it. It's like, can you guys take a break? We know that there's a lot of rumors that your marriage is falling apart, but this is not the time to try to switch the tone.
Sauntering around like it's just a regular Sunday afternoon at the Brentwood Farmers Market in their LA baseball caps, and Meghan in her sort of rumpled, oversized work shirt with the sleeves rolled up. I mean, stop it. It's disgusting. You're using these people as props. You're using this devastation as your latest Hollywood backdrop for your attempt to relaunch yourself like 11.0. Nobody wants the rebooted Meghan. Nobody wants the rebooted Harry. Go away.
Yeah, no. So just to your point, it was Justine Bateman that tweeted, Meghan Markle and Harry are no better than ambulance chasers. What a repulsive photo op they achieved. They are touring the damage, question mark. Are they politicians now? They don't live here. They are tourist disaster tourists. And according to Page Six, someone close to Harry and Meghan responds, it's offensive to Meghan and Harry that anybody would think this is merely a photo opportunity. Well, they had to know that this was coming. Meghan was born and raised in Los Angeles, so this is and always will be home to her. Her heart is completely broken for all the lives that have been lost and for those whose homes have been destroyed in these fires. Harry and Meghan invested significant time and resources. They have donated money and essential items. They also dedicated countless hours to volunteering long before the media even caught wind of their involvement. Well, that's fine. Continue
Oh,
to
really?
volunteer behind the scenes. But you chose to show up where there were cameras. That was
I don't
intentional.
believe
You
it,
can
Kinsey. I don't believe
Yeah,
it. I don't believe they were
yeah.
quietly volunteering behind the scenes. Meghan Markle is the human embodiment of if a tree falls. If there is not a camera crew to catch her doing some sort of benevolent act, which is ultimately self-serving, see her needless trip to Uvalde, inserting herself into a tragedy that saw the carnage of little children in one of the worst school shootings in American history. She is vile. So I don't believe for a second there's some sort of behind the scenes, quiet charity work or volunteering going on. It doesn't matter to her unless there's a camera crew. And let me say this. In New York City, after September 11th, Steve Buscemi, who is a former firefighter for the city of New York, very quietly went down to his old firehouse and reported for duty and worked on that pile for days. And he did not send out a press release. So she can go F off.
God, I forgot about that. You're absolutely right. I mean, that was incredible work that he did. I'm glad you brought that up. I did think it was funny, though, that Page Six says reps for the Sussexes did not immediately respond to Page Six request for comment, because I'm like, didn't they? Wasn't that all that I just read? Well, you can say that was a source close to the Sussex all you want, but that sounded a lot like the tone the Sussexes would take. It's offensive to Meghan and Harry that anybody would think this is merely a photo opportunity. I think a lot of us look at it and see it for exactly what it is. Two people desperate to turn around some really bad press. And, you just, you've been terrors for 4 years, almost 5 years. You've already established yourself, and you don't go away. So there's no time for anybody to forget about your behavior over the last 4 years. You listed their behavior in that article that you wrote on the Daily Mail. You listed how their timing always seems to happen when there's hurt going on for someone else, whether it's Prince Philip in the hospital, a month from passing away and they're sitting down with Oprah, whatever it is, it just feels like they are always so self-consumed and not thinking about anybody else. And we've accepted that. It's been going on for so long. We've accepted it. There's no shifting the tone, no matter what emergency they show up to and pretend that they're all in.
So I want to address both parts of what you just said. The first being the press release or the statement that came out of the Sussex camp, but didn't come out of the Sussex camp, that they are very offended by what Justine Bateman had to say. How about, again, if they only had stayed with Buckingham Palace and people who know what they're doing? How about if this is truly not about you, if it's truly not about you, these wildfires that are apocalyptic, how about you keep your mouth shut? Someone calls you disaster tourists, let them. Who cares? If you are really that much more high-minded and your thoughts and concerns are really with the true victims of this tragedy, then you would just let that roll off your back. Cannot happen. Now we're in the news cycle. Got to keep, terrible metaphor, but very apt, fanning those flames, right? Because those are the only ones that matter to Meghan Markle. Secondly, in the column I did that you just referenced, I sort of laid out the dates of these, horrific events befalling the royal family, whether it was a senior royal on their deathbed, Prince Philip, Queen Elizabeth quietly battling bone cancer, which is extremely painful. Kate Middleton's abdominal surgery, which led to her announcement that she had cancer, which shocked. I mean, that was like breaking news, even in the United States, like live network TV broke in for her video, to Charles announcing that he had cancer and was also undergoing treatment. They not only didn't pause any of their ridiculous projects, announcements, what have you, whether it was Oprah, whether it was Spare, whether it was that Netflix show, they allowed them to continue. And I actually think that they have such dark energy, that they are so full of resentment and rage that they enjoyed this timing, which for them was, I think they would have considered it serendipitous timing, whereas most decent people would have said, we're going to pause on the Oprah interview because Prince Philip is on his deathbed. We're going to push back the release of Spare because the Queen has just died. We're going to push back the release of the Harry and Meghan Netflix spectacle because the Queen has just died, instead of allowing Meghan to go on the world's biggest global streamer and mock the Queen, mock her curtsy to the Queen, compare the British royal family to medieval times. They enjoy this, I believe. I think they get a very sick, disgusting pleasure out of it. And that's why I think the cookery and the crockery is flying in Montecito right now, because her show, which is supposed to, in her mind, make her a huge star and make everybody finally love her, has been canceled. And this is, again, a tragedy that is happening to her.
To your point of what you said about them not budging when it comes to the horrors happening over in the UK, I just want to throw back to March 5th, 2021. The headline for the Metro in the UK is "Meghan won't postpone Oprah interview as it, quote, has nothing to do with Prince Philip." Like that is it. That's them in a nutshell, right? And I thought you were going to say, and maybe you were hinting at it, but I thought you were going to say they saw this as an opportunity. I mean, what we saw last weekend was a PR opportunity for them, because Meghan felt like she had this show on the horizon, and perhaps that positive press might lean into the show. Do you think that was ever on her mind? Do you think she was ever conscious of that? Or do you think I'm being too cynical that she thought, hey, this is an opportunity to get good press for my show that's coming out in a few days?
I don't think she's that smart. I think people think she's smarter than she is. I don't think it was that
I,
difficult for her to hook a beta male royal whose entire peer group of aristocrats and posh ladies wanted nothing to do with him. You know, he was getting a little long in the tooth for a British royal to be unmarried without children. I think that that first thing you said with her issuing that statement about the Oprah sit down having nothing to do with Prince Philip, that is Meghan Markle in a nutshell, which is attempting to elevate herself by bringing people far above her station down to her level. You're kidding me. Are you for real? The Oprah interview had nothing to do with Prince Philip. Honey, you're not sitting down with Oprah Winfrey unless you are now a newly minted member of the British royal family. So it has everything to do with Prince Philip. And you're about to announce to the world, heavily imply, I should say, that senior members of the British royal family were racist, that senior members of the British royal family refused to allow you mental help while you were having suicidal ideations. I mean, who believes that? So she's going to say that one has nothing to do with the other. That is beyond cynical. Why would you worry about being cynical, Kinsey? We're talking about the most cynical woman on the planet. Secondly, I don't think she has, she can't play chess. She can only play checkers. Remember, the morning that LA began burning, she released that ridiculous video of herself frolicking on the beach in black and white, writing 2025 in the sand like she's a 12-year-old. That's Meghan. She only cares about what's in her immediate vicinity and what affects her.
I just want to say too really quickly for those that don't know, they do believe that the Pacific Palisades fire started on January 1st and that firefighters thought they put it out, but they do believe that there's an investigation currently happening, but they do believe that it's the same space that firefighters tried to put out on January 1st that led to the big fire that we see today. So for anybody wondering, I just wanted to clarify that. So that is what Maureen is referencing. So this will air on Wednesday, but on Tuesday, which is today for us, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, visited the Royal Marsden Hospital in West London because she wanted to personally thank staff for their care and compassion, confirming to us that this is where she went to undergo her cancer treatment and her chemo. You know, she sat down with a woman having chemo and said, all I can tell you is that people told me to continue to have a positive mindset, and it makes the biggest difference. She said, I'm sorry to somebody. I wish there was more that I could do to help you. That was what she told one of the women that was there receiving treatment. You know, she said, are you okay, to someone? And she said, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Best of luck. You are in the best hands. Is it because she experienced this that we know she's so sincere, and we're moved by this? This is what Meghan's trying to emulate, without a doubt. This is what Meghan is trying to copy. But one comes off as completely authentic, believable, and sincere, and the other absolutely does not.
Right. And I think the main problem with Meghan is, aside from what I perceive, and many do, to be her rabid jealousy of Catherine, is you cannot fake authenticity. You can't fake it. And people can sense inauthenticity. They can sense a fake. They can sense a phony. And Meghan's proven herself over and over again to be the latter. I think everyone knew Kate was the real deal when she announced her diagnosis, which she was forced to do because of various missteps and conspiracy theories swirling around. So I think the world already felt sympathy for her having to come forward so publicly with this traumatic diagnosis. But when she made that announcement, she was sure to end it by addressing her fellow travelers. She addressed everyone else who is suffering through a cancer diagnosis or chemotherapy. And she was sure to say, you are not alone.
I'm not trying to be insensitive, but Meghan, when she lost a baby, she wrote an op-ed about it, and we left her alone. We left her alone. she says that we harass her and that they want their privacy, and it was a lot of Meghan's fan base that were terrorizing the Princess of Wales, saying that she was getting a Brazilian butt lift or that her husband was a murderer. I mean, a lot of the conspiracy theories were coming from Meghan's fan base. But when Meghan lost a child and wrote about it in the New York Times, we stepped back and we left her alone. We left her alone to grieve, to deal. It was a blimp. She's the one that presented it, and we did not. We barely discussed it, and we wanted her to deal with that however she wanted to deal with that. I feel like Catherine has been treated completely different. Catherine has, Catherine, not only has Catherine been very compassionate about people that have lost babies, that's one of the things that that's one of her campaigns that she works on with the early years projects. But, despite knowing Catherine had cancer, people were still harassing her online and still demanding to see her. I do feel like we've treated both women completely differently. And I feel like in the midst of pain and suffering, both women have handled things so differently.
It's interesting you brought up that New York Times op-ed Meghan wrote about her miscarriage. I had forgotten about that. But here's the thing. You can't scream, I want privacy, I want privacy, I want privacy, and use the op-ed pages of the New York Times, which frankly should be devoted to more substantial world events than Meghan Markle's miscarriage. Announce it in the pages of the New York Times and then say, leave me alone. I want privacy. I want the things I consider sacred to be held sacred. And let's not forget, she's married to a guy who sold out such secrets as his penis was frozen while he stood at the altar during William and Kate's wedding, and he used mummy's face
and other people's secrets.
Like, I mean, come on, you can't ask for privacy and divulge this kind of stuff. It's one or the other.
Before I let you go, I want to ask you about Harry and Meghan challenging Meta. They've been criticizing Meta for abandoning fact checking. I listened to Mark Zuckerberg talk about it on Rogan. It made sense to me. He was like, you know what? We hire multiple third parties to take care of this stuff. I can't control it. And I've realized that, analytically, I can see that some of these people are biased, and you could see that they fact check more of one party than the other. And he was like, I just can't control it. It doesn't make sense to me anymore. And I don't want to deal with the hassle of feeling like we're not being fair to everybody. Let do your own research. If you see something that doesn't sit well with you, find multiple sources. It made sense to me why he said he was throwing it out the door. But Harry and Meghan complaining, saying contrary to the company's talking points, they're allowing more abuse and normalizing hate speech. They say that it's silencing speech and expression, not to foster these old rules that they had. They said in an already confusing and in many instances, intentionally disruptive information environment, Meta has shown their words and commitments have very little meaning and integrity. There was some sort of reference to, it felt like they were throwing shade at Zuckerberg for like changing his tone or his attitude solely based on the upcoming administration. That's kind of what it sounded like in one of the lines that they referenced. This is another situation similar to this story where you wrote, where I'm like, sit down, no one cares. We don't care what you say we don't care how you feel about Meta. That's the same company you claimed you were working with a few weeks ago to work on anti-bullying campaigns. Apparently that relationship has been severed.
Listen, I have my own thoughts about Zuckerberg's about face and his claiming that he was a victim of the prior administration, what have you. But the real question and what you're talking about is, why are these two opining on this? Okay. They are not thought leaders. They are not titans of Silicon Valley. They are not elected officials. They have no role in public life as per their own oft stated wishes. Harry is the guy who landed in America and said, I don't understand the First Amendment. Okay.
Yeah.
Be quiet. But you know what? This is the one upshot, I think, and I love this for Meghan. keep making enemies in Silicon Valley. Make an enemy of Ted Sarandos. Make an enemy of Mark Zuckerberg. Hit up Elon Musk next. Keep going.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because to me, that it would make a much bigger impact if Meghan hadn't just joined Instagram, but she wants that attention. She's on Instagram because she wants the likes. She wants stories about how many Instagram followers she's collected. She wants stories about the content that she's uploading. By the way, no resources on how to help the LA fire victims, but we've got a montage of Guy and the beach video and the trailer for the Netflix series. Wouldn't it make such a bigger impact for you if she said, this is such an about face and I'm so disappointed that I'm going to go ahead and deactivate my account?
Well, that'll never happen. I mean, you're asking for logic. And frankly, Kinsey, they gave it the office. They showed up for between 17 and 45 minutes the other day. What more do you want from them? You want them to be like
Yeah.
Jennifer Garner, like ladling soup out to poor people? No, that's not going to happen.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I thought that you were the first person on my mind when I saw all of that going down. And if you haven't bought Maureen's book, it's Ask Not the Kennedys and the Women They Destroyed. And it is so juicy. My favorite book of 2024 by far. And I can't wait to see what you do next, but I get to see it up close and personal because I get to talk to you regularly. So I'm not trying to brag or anything, but that's pretty exciting.
Well, thank you, Kinsey, and thank you for having me. I'm so glad we were able to have some sort of catharsis today over this obscene display of vanity.
Yeah. Amen. All right. Wait, if you like this video, make sure you do so with a thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, and thanks so much for watching.